Welcome to Kanzongayo. If you have stumbled across this part of YouTube, then that probably means you have some interest in the golden era of Korean music in the 70s and 80s, the Chilgong Palgong era. I wanted to make an introductory video to tell you a little bit about myself, how I got into collecting Korean records, and sort of the purposes of this channel. I started listening to records, obviously, just growing up. My parents, had a turntable, and we didn't listen to it that much, but always during the holidays, that's when records were thrown on. We had a scary record for Halloween, and at Christmas, it was time to bust out Mitch Miller and Bing Crosby, and even St. Patrick's Day, another Bing Crosby album came out. When I was in high school, I started to get into classic rock, and I came home from school one day and I started flipping through all of my dad's old records, and I was blown away. I'm like, wow, Led Zeppelin, Jimi Hendrix, the Beatles, at a time where maybe I didn't think my dad was the coolest guy. I was sort of taken back and had to reassess, like, wait a minute, you like really good music. And that night when he came home from work, we just listened to these records for hours and hours, and something just sparked in me. I had a pretty big CD collection at the time of all sorts of different genres and things like that, but there was something different about the LP. I don't know, maybe because the album artwork is so much larger, and you can you're forced to listen to the whole record, really, like listen to the A side and flip it, listen to the B side. You don't really listen to just individual tracks as much when you're listening to a record, and there is something about just sort of meditating with the music that way that I found to be really cool. I started collecting my own records sort of in, early 20s, and it would be picking up a Ryan Adams record or a Radiohead album. And I, through the mid 2000s, as the resurgence of vinyl kicked off, I started building up my collection there. I came to Korea in 2009, and I just sort of quit listening to records for a while. And Korean music for me at the time, I had a few bands that I was into. My now wife, girlfriend, introduced me to Classiquad Project and Deli Spice, Roller Coaster, some groups like that. I have a DJ friend who introduced me to Windy City and like a Soto Union, some things like that. But obviously, during that period of time, in the mid 2000s, Korea was not producing vinyl. So, to this day, those records, for the most part, are only available on CD or tape, with a few exceptions. But so, I guess you could say what really started to open up the door to some of the older music for me was Kim Kwang-seok. When I first heard him, I probably was not even super into Kim Kwang-seok. But over time, just listening to him more and more, I fell in love with his music, which, unfortunately for me, his albums are some of the most expensive albums in all of Korea. So I don't have any. But it did open up the door to me exploring other Korean artists, and I guess it was watching 응답하라 1988, Reply 1988, a Korean drama where there's a lot of songs from the 80s that were redone by modern artists, and that got me digging down this rabbit hole of trying to find out different musicians from the 80s. And so I decided that I was going to try and find some of these on wax, and my Korean vinyl journey began. I think actually you can see in the background here, Lee Moon-se's fourth album. That is the first Korean record that I ever bought. That was about 4 years ago. I I'm not sure the exact count. I probably have well over 150 Korean records now. And you know, as it happens sometimes with vinyl, you just kind of, the addiction grows. And so I started this channel because there were a lot of songs maybe I was looking for where you could find the top track off of a record, but you couldn't find the full album. And so if I was looking to buy something and, you know, trying to find, okay, where can I listen to the full album, with some of the more obscure stuff, it just didn't exist. And so I wanted to create a channel where if there were those types of situations, like I could put like a full A side, full B side on YouTube, and people could enjoy them that way. And so the aesthetic is sort of trying to achieve, you know, what you do have with vinyl, where you sit down and maybe listen to the full record, or at least you listen to a full side of the record, and you have the artwork there. And obviously not everyone has a turntable, but there's that nostalgia element for some people who want to reminisce about the times that they used to listen to music in that format. And so I've been putting up a lot of videos that way. I do hope to have some other type of content on here as well. I have one mix set that I put up of some Korean city pop, and I really like the YouTuber My Analog Journal. I'd like to have some more of, you know, mix set type content, so hardware willing, like I'll try and do some of that in the future. I'm also a big fan of Noble Records YouTube channel, so if I can create some more Korea oriented content based around, you know, Korean records, you know, those are some of my influences, and hopefully the type of content that I can bring to anyone who's interested in the future. So that's a little bit about myself, and thank you for watching. If you've been watching, if there's any type of content that you'd like to see in the future, let me know. If there's some albums that you would like to have on YouTube, I'll do my best to try and source it and get it uploaded. And yeah, like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. If you comment in English, I can comment back easily in English. If you comment in Korean, I'll do my best. I'm still a bit of a chobo, but I'm working on it. So I'll do my best to reply in Korean. So anyways, I look forward to interacting with anyone who's interested in this type of music, and hopefully I can bring you guys some interesting 7080 content in the future.